Sanhedrin Daf Yomi Bet, it's all or nothing, lo Ibayi lirachka. Firstly, the shir has been sponsored by Moshe Isaacson, who is sometimes here physically and sometimes not, but always listens to the shir. It's in memory of his daughter, Dina Oraya Bas Moshe, whose yortzeit and unveiling was last Monday on the 24th of Adar. Moshe and his family have generously contributed to many causes that take care of the mental health of people who are struggling, and his generosity and dedication to our shir is very much appreciated. It's as a result of people like you, Moshe, and others who make the work of the Matmonim possible. As I've mentioned, there's a lot of expense and hard work involved in getting it out in a format that people can access around the world in different forms, and your generosity enables that. We really thank you for that. In addition, just while we're on the issue of sponsorship, there's an event on Monday in Tel Aviv at 12, and it's gone out on the Matmonim WhatsApp group, which is going to be a podcast, a live podcast with a luncheon at the Azrieli Towers with Shark Tank on the topic of slavery and freedom, work, money, cell phones, that we'll be looking at. So it should be an exciting opportunity. If you don't have the details, you can ask me for them. But we're looking for a sponsor of about 1,000 shekel to co-sponsor the event. So if there's anybody who's interested in doing so, please be in touch with me in the next day or two. We often think that a little of a good thing is better than nothing, at least something. But it isn't always the case. And Torah is one of the cases where it isn't always the case, where a little Torah or Torah not learnt according to the rules and principles by which Torah is meant to be learned can lead to disaster. Of course, it's not for a person who's learning casually in whatever way they can. That's fine. They're gaining knowledge, they're gaining connection, they're gaining insights into Torah, as long as they're not drawing conclusions. Once a person starts expressing opinions as to what they think the halakha should or shouldn't be, or what they think is right and wrong in accordance with Torah, or what we should or shouldn't believe, or what religious people should or shouldn't be doing, one can have one's personal opinions, but to express an opinion as to what one thinks the Torah's opinion is, that one can't do unless one is qualified, and we'll see what some of the qualifications are. There are a number of psukim on which this piece of Gemara is based. The Gemara says, Tanya Rabbi Meir Omer, Halomed Torah ve'eno melamda, zehu davar Hashem bizah. If a person learns Torah and doesn't teach it, that's davar Hashem bazah. That's as if one is negating the word of Hashem. And one knows, anybody who's taught knows how difficult it is to teach, how much time and preparation and effort it is first to understand properly, and then to format it in a way that others can access it, even if they haven't been on the same journey that you've been. There's an enormous amount of work, and if one learns without teaching, one doesn't yet understand the Torah. You understand the Torah when you've taught the Torah, says Rabbi Meir. And if you learn it without teaching it, and you draw conclusions based on what you've learned, that's called negating God's Torah. That's worse than not learning at all, if one draws such conclusions. Rabbi Yeshua ben Kocha lamed Torah ve'ein chozer aleh. If one learns Torah and doesn't review it over and over and over again, each time one relearns it, relearning it with a freshness and with a newness, that's like investing in something and never reaping the benefit of it. The benefit comes in the relearning. The benefit comes in the review, not just parrot review, but relearning and relearning and relearning. Each time one sees new things in it, and that way one gets the full benefit of it. Rabbi Yeshua Amar Kol Alamei Torah Umeshakcha Domeh Lisha Sheyoledet V'Koveret Chas V'Sholom. If a person learns Torah and then does the kind of things that causes one to forget the Torah, one does things that takes one's mind completely off Torah, that's called mishakha. You're deliberately causing it to be forgotten. That's like, God forbid, giving birth and then burying the children, God forbid. Omer Rabbi Elazar, kol adam la'amal nivra. Every person is born to work. We'll talk more about this on Monday at the podcast. Every person is born to work. Shneimar ki adam la'amal yulad. Man is born to work, Shlomo HaMelech says in Mishlei. But I don't know, says the Rabbi Eliezer, if that means work, labor, or it means intellectual work with your mind and with your mouth. He brings a raya from the posuk Akaf alav pihu. This is clearly you're meant to be using your mouth, your mind, and communication and self-expression. Does that mean just anything? You can talk about anything? What does it mean in Torah? A person is created in order to toil in the ideas of Torah, in the laws of the Torah, in God's wisdom, in God's insight, seeing the world through the lens of the Ribono Shel Olam. We're meant to be toiling in that, to be working in that. Just as physically, when you work, you build muscle. So when you work in Torah, you build Torah muscle, you build spiritual muscle. But it needs work. Just to go to the gym and have a look at all the equipment in the gym doesn't do anything for you. To go to the gym and pick up weights that are too light for you doesn't do anything for you. If you build up a sweat at the gym and you come out of it and you're exhausted, you're drained from the effort, then you get strong. So it is la'amal Torah. There needs to be work in Torah. There needs to be toil in Torah in order for it to really be so. It brings Torah from Rava, and that's Torah. That if one doesn't do so, then it's Omer Reish Lakish, Torah li prakim. No, if isha chaser lev, a person who flirts with a woman, interacts with a woman, is somebody who doesn't have a heart. Shene'emar ki na'im tishmereim bevitnecha, because the Torah is beautiful when it's kept in your innards. Yikonu yachdav al sfatecha, when you can bring different Torah ideas together in an integrated worldview. That's when it becomes beautiful. And Rashi explains, Lomed Torah lifrakim, if one just learns Torah occasionally, ve'eno lomed tadir, and one doesn't learn very regularly, every single day. It's like a person who doesn't have a wife, and he has relationships sometimes with this girl, sometimes with that girl. He's not building up a connection and relationship and family. He's not investing it. That's if one learns Torah occasionally. You learn this shir, you go to that shir, you look up this on the internet, you open such a sefer and such a sefer. Sometimes this, sometimes that, sometimes nothing at all. That's flirting with the Torah. And in flirting with the Torah, it's chaser lev. You don't get that integrated worldview that enables you to look at the Torah through the eyes of the Torah. When is Torah preserved inside you and makes you a different people? When you can bring it all together in an integrated worldview, that's when the Torah becomes part of you. And the Marshal says, Shamati b'zeh b'milat la'amal shehu rashi tevod lilmod al menat lelamed. The Adam la'amal yulad, a person is born to work in Torah. The first letters of amal, la'amal, stand for to learn in order to teach. When you're learning something with the intention of teaching it, you make sure that you really understand it, that you really know it, that you can answer questions on it. That kind of effort, that's how you have to learn. Whether you actually teach or not is not the issue. The issue is that the way you learn is with such clarity that you're ready to teach it. That's the level of hard work that you need for the Torah to integrate into you, to become part of you, and to formulate into an integrated worldview. Then the Gemara goes on. So what happens if you don't learn that way? You just learn casually. You sit back, you learn what I've always called the jacuzzi learning. Like you sit in the jacuzzi and the water flows past you and it's as if you're swimming. It's fine, you feel the water flowing past you as if you're swimming, but it doesn't do anything for you. If you want to do something for you, you actually have to get into the water and swim, use your muscles and move. And a lot of our learning today is jacuzzi learning. We sit and we let the Torah flow past us. We listen and it flows past us and it's beautiful and it's lovely and we're in the jacuzzi and it's relaxing and it's great and it's fine. What happens if one learns jacuzzi style? As I said, just to do it without drawing conclusions from it, it's fine. So you're sitting in the jacuzzi, you're sitting at a shir and the Torah is wafting past you, not a terrible thing. There are worse things to do than that. But to then start expressing expert opinions, now you've been learning, now you know what's right and what's wrong and what the Torah should do and shouldn't do and what the Haredim should do and the Dati Leumi should do and the rabbis should do because you're now an expert, that's something which has the opposite effect. Let's see what happens. So the Gemara goes on to say, Timna bat melachim havai. Timna was the daughter of lords and princes. Baili Gyuri, she wanted to convert. Bata etzel Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, v'lo kiblua. She came to the Beis Din of Avram, to the Beis Din of Yitzchak, to the Beis Din of Yaakov, one after the other over periods of years, and they wouldn't accept her. So she became a concubine of Eliphaz, the son of Esav. I would rather be a servant to this nation, and rather than to be a mistress, to be a princess in some other nation. And Rashi explains why. What is that? I would rather be for Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, shein Yirei Shamayim, because they are Yorei Shamayim, rather than to become connected with some other nation, even as a princess. What happens to her? Nafak mina Amalek. From that relationship of her and Esav comes Amalek, the Tsarina Israel, who caused harm to Yisrael. My time, but why? Íbעי לרחקה, because they shouldn't have rejected her. Says Rashi, what they should have done was taken her into their seminaries and taught her and be makarev her, and later on maybe converted her. The issue was not whether or not they converted her. As the Yavet says, there were reasons not to convert, because the din is that lechatchila one has to question if a woman is converting, or a man, for the sake of a relationship, then one doesn't go ahead with the conversion. If b'di'evid, the Vilna Gaon says, if b'di'evid that she converted for that reason, it's a valid conversion. But lechatchila, to start off with, you want to check that that's not what's motivating her. And here they were concerned that she wanted to get married. However, from Rashi we see that she's really directed by Yerushalayim. She wants a God-fearing, to be part of a God-fearing nation. Because they rejected her and didn't educate her, out of her comes Amalek. And of course, this is the big question. Why would Amalek come out of that relationship particularly? Esav had many other children. At least Timnah had some good in her heart. She wanted to be part of the Jewish people. Why does Amalek come out of that relationship and not from other sons of and daughters of Esav? And what did the Chazal do wrong in not converting her? Why didn't they convert her firstly? Why did Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov not convert her? So if we learn this, and Chaim Shmuelevitz explains this Gemara so beautifully and very deeply and quite scaringly. And based on the Rashi in Parshas Vayetze, where Eliezer, when Eliezer, my grandfather's servant, came to look for a wife for my father, he had wealth with him. I have nothing to offer you, because I was pursued by Eliphaz ben Esav, whose father Esav instructed him to kill me. And since Eliphaz grew up b'cheiko shel Yitzchak, since he grew up in the bosom of Yitzchak, he couldn't bring himself to kill Yaakov. He couldn't do that. I'm confused. My father says I must kill Yaakov. My grandfather would be horrified if I did such a thing. Amar lo Yaakov, tol ma shebiyadi, take all my money. Ve'ani chashuv kametin. There's a Gemara that a person who's very poor, who has no money at all, is as if he's dead. He doesn't have freedom. He doesn't have life. So you can be yotzei the instruction of your father, and your grandfather won't be upset. Oh, he says, that's a great idea. I've got a heter to take your money. That's the way to do it. I'm being mekayim all the mitzvahs. I'm still frum. Everything's good. Eliphaz is happy, and he takes the money. Explains Reb Chaim Shmuelevitz that good and evil are intertwined. We sometimes think of good and evil as separate, and we look at bad people to find evil. You want to find evil, look at Hamas. You want to look good, so you find good things, look at the Jewish people. Not so simple. Good and evil are intertwined, and they come in the same places. And that's the pshat in Ki Yesharim Darchei Hashem Tzadikim Yelchu Bam Ufoshim Yikashlu Bam, that the ways of Hashem are straight. Righteous people go by them, and wicked people are tripped up by them, says Reb Chaim. They're tripped up by the mitzvahs. They're tripped up by halacha. That the same halacha that a righteous person understands correctly, a wicked person misunderstands and misapplies. Within the Torah, there's the potential for evil. And that's the meaning that Rava says it can be samed mavis. This can be poison for somebody who learns Torah and lemas me'ilimbo with their left hand. They're kind of casual. If you're offered a glass of very expensive wine, you take it in your right hand. If you're offered a glass of water, you might take it in your left hand. What's the worst? You spill it, you drop it, not the end of the world. But the wine, you'll take in your right hand. Depends how you learn Torah. If you learn Torah with your left hand, it's samed amavis, says Rava. It doesn't say it's as if you're not learning. He doesn't say it's wasted time. He says it will poison you. You will draw the wrong conclusions from Torah. You won't understand it. You look at the world incorrectly, like Eliphaz. He's after all a Talmud of Yitzchak. Look what yeshiva Eliphaz went to. The frum of the frum is Eliphaz. Yitzchak's Talmud. And he has dilemma. What do I do? My father said I've got to kill Yaakov. Maybe I have to. Every cheder child knows that you wouldn't listen to a father to commit murder. That al tirtzach is more important in that situation. Why is Eliphaz confused? Says Reb Chaim Shmuelevitz, it's because in the human being, if one doesn't have purity of thought and one hasn't been meshamish talmidei chachomim, on Daf Peiches we had the shir on shimush talmidei chachomim, how you need to have this idea of living with the Talmid Chacham in order to know how to trade off sometimes conflicting halachot. My father says kill him, my grandfather says don't. What do? The Torah says al tirtzach, my father says murder him. What do I do? How you weigh up conflicting halachot comes from shimush talmidei chachomim. And it was interesting, after Gemara Daf Peiches, one of the people who's been a consistent follower of the Matmonim for a long time is Rav Micha Berger, who I hope is listening. I hope your aliyah is successful, Rav Micha, and you're happy. Commented on how upset he is about the way people are learning often today, and even the smicha is about rules and regulations. So what do you know if you know the laws? If you've gone through the smicha program and you know all the laws, so what do you know? You know the rules. But that's not going to show you how to resolve halachic conflict. For that you need much deeper involvement. And it's not just because of halacha. That halachic process teaches you how to resolve conflict in matters of hashkafa as well, in matters of philosophy and outlook as well. To learn how to do that, we use the halachic process as a method of resolving dilemma in all areas of life. But that requires shimush talmidei chachomim, which, as you remember on Peches, Rashi said, means learning deeply the meaning and the understanding of all the halachot of the Torah, to understand the Gemaras and the Rishonim and the Achronim of the Gemaras. That's what you need, and Eliphaz didn't have that. And the result was that he was confused. And so says Reb Chaim Shmuelevitz, this Gemara that says you've got to lilmod am nas l'mamed, you've got to learn in order to teach, you've got to learn with amal, you've got to learn with hard work, you've got to learn in a way that it really integrates into one world view. If one doesn't do that, you get into a situation like Eliphaz chas v'shalom, where it's better that you wouldn't have learned altogether than that you're drawing conclusions from learning that was done with some degree of casualness, with some degree of jacuzzi learning. Again, I say jacuzzi learning casually is fine if it's just a usage of time. But if it's in order to understand the world, you're not going to understand the world without investing the hard work and the effort and learning from people who have a Masorah, who have a tradition, to whom you get close and understand how to manage that tradition. And so the Chachomim in that time, the Bosei Din of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they saw that there was something in Timnah that was attracting her to the shortcut. That she wants Yerushalayim. So what do you do if you want Yerushalayim? You don't go to Sem and learn. You don't go and study. You don't live with people. You marry a Jewish boy, and then you're into the Yerushalayim family. That's the shortcut. And they weren't willing to give her that shortcut. And as a result of that, she identifies Eliphaz. What's Eliphaz? He's got some knowledge. He was a Talmud of Yitzchak. He was learning in Yitzchak's yeshiva. Let me marry Eliphaz. Yes, but if you look at Eliphaz clearly, you'll see he doesn't get it. He's been learning, but he doesn't get it. He doesn't have a feel for it. He doesn't have a deep understanding of Torah. And why would you connect yourself to Eliphaz again? You want a shortcut rather than to really get it. And so in our learning together every morning, and in each of your learning, in my learning, we need to remind ourselves also that there are no shortcuts. The benefit is in the work. The results are in the effort. The results are in the tadirut, in the regularity of it. The results are in the shimush, in getting deep into it, in getting close to people who can teach it properly. That's where the results are. If one wants results from learning, if you just want the experience of learning, you want to check it off, I've learned today, I've been to a shir today, I've done the daf today, that's all great, that's fine. But if you want results, if you want the Torah to be building you and strong, making you stronger, if you want the Torah to help you make yourself the best version of yourself, Adam la'amal yulad, that's going to need an effort of mental, an investment of mental effort, of exertion, of toil, of dedication, and of consistent commitment.